angel investing, as we all know, is all about catching them early. Well, talking about unicorns, 37 in December 2020, with additions of 11 in the last year, and already within the first 4 months, we've added 10 more, so we are at 47 unicorns now. Unicorns essentially are unlisted companies which are valued at $1 billion US and above. And further, reports suggest that this number could leapfrog to 150 by 2025. Sumit, any particular one sentence answer on this view?
No, so first of all, Manish, thank you so much for having me here, and always great to be interacting with the Lead Angels family. Obviously it's, from a unicorn standpoint, and it's a very fascinating time, right? And it's, and that really showcases the talent pool that India has to offer, and the large consumption and consumer base that India has that you can really leverage to make sizable companies. So, that's very fascinating. That's always, what was expected. And I'm glad with the, smartphones and internet penetration and the second wave of entrepreneurs, with the more mature and wiser ones, I think we are able to build much faster now.
Super. So like, by name I'm Johari, and gold is dear to heart. And as you all know, for gold to become a necklace, it has to go through fire and grit. And founders are the same ways, they are that gold which cannot be found, which was found by the gold diggers in the gold rush, etc. Wherein, it's really hard to find it out. At Lead Angels, we were able to spot one early. And there you have Sumit Ghorawat, founder of Shopkirana, a unicorn in the making. Okay. Sumit, he's an engineer from BITS, Dubai Pilani, and Carnegie Mellon. He did his master's in chemical engineering. And he got his grounding in the retail trade with P&G. Having seen the inefficiencies across the general trade, and specifically problems faced by the Kirana shops, he got together with his friends to start Shopkirana. His idea was that why not be the Amazon to the Kirana walas? Okay, Sumit, that's my brief introduction about you. And yes, you have done exactly that. And I'm sure a lot of Kirana walas and now the Kisan lot also are giving you, have actually become your well-wishers. So a brief about yourself, your early years.
So thank you so much for that brief introduction. I'll just add a few more things, and maybe going all the way to, so I'm originally from Rajasthan, did a bit of schooling in Indore, went to Kota in high school to prepare for these competitive exams, and then later did my undergrad from BITS Pilani, Dubai, with chemical engineering. Later moved to the US, did my master's from Carnegie Mellon, where my area of focus was process system design, decision, general management, entrepreneurship. Ended up working there alongside while in university with an incubation center called Innovation Works, which is a startup incubator. Did 2 cycles there, and then quit that to join P&G, Procter & Gamble. Like you mentioned, this was a switch. Before that, my entire background was actually oil and gas, and this is, entrepreneurship was something that I was always keen on, and figured that oil and gas had a very different mindset that was required for entrepreneurship, and so felt that consumer products was one interest of mine. And so P&G really helped fuel that, and really understanding the massive gap between what brands really want to do and what Kirana stores are doing really. And so that's all, that's how all of this happened to me.
I guess that's how your motto became, empower the retailer with technology and brands. That's a good one, actually. So going forward, I'll go back again to the yesteryears when you came in touch with Lead Angels. So how was it? And did we reach out or you reached out to us? How did it start?
That's a very interesting story, actually, Manish. So actually, this happened. This is back in 2016, and so I was in Bombay already. Meeting some our existing initial backers and angels, and just networking and meeting people. And this was already, I think, around 11 o'clock or something. One of my other our co-founder and CEO Tanu Tejas, he called me saying, "Hey, you're there. We've been in touch with this group Lead Angels, and what they do is they pick about 5 to 6 startups in a month, and you can go and pitch there, and uh, get access to a lot of these angels. And so I said, okay, fine. This sounds interesting. When is it? He said it's in 2 hours. And so I was actually in Powai that time, and I got to know that BKC is where this is happening in the next 2 hours. I quickly ran there and tried to understand what it is. Actually, I had no idea the format and how this really happened. Anyway, as they say, the entrepreneurs always have to be ready. You can never see what is coming your way. And so the setup was quite interesting because it was the first time. I had been to several of these pitch kind of events before, but those were smaller. Either they were only a group of say 10 people, or there were hundreds of people, right? It was not curated. And this is one of the key differences which I found in the Lead Angels pitching, where there were about, I think, 30 to 50 people there, and all of them curated, right? I mean, all of them had the intention of figuring out what are the new ideas that are, and really backing them. And so that was a very interesting bit where live pitching to all of these 40-50 people, along with there was a video recording which was later circulated to the rest of your members. So that was an interesting piece. The interesting piece after that is that right after I finished my pitching and I stepped out, there was a break, and immediately a couple of people caught hold of me. Especially that time our deal lead Pragnesh, he caught hold of me, and there were a couple of others surrounding him, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing in the evening today?" And in my mind, I was like, so bear in mind, this is 2016. This is around March timing, right? So there was India World Cup going on, and usi sham ko India Pakistan ka match tha. And so in my head, I'm like, मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'll probably find a good place to watch the match. And so he said, hey, no, why don't you come to my place? Why don't I host you for dinner, and I'll get along some more people. And then let's have a good chat, let's continue this chat, because, the pitch is for a certain format. It's a 10-20 minute kind of a conversation, right? And so I was like, fine, let's do that. And the interesting bit is that, there were about 5-6 of us, ended up being there having dinner and the conversation. I mean, to say the least, the conversation was intriguing enough that none of us were watching the match or even, asked the score to each other. That's how the evening went. And long story short, obviously, we were able to get the, a good pool of angels from Lead Angels, to come in.
Super. I mean, India Park match, and you guys are talking business. No two ways, but for you to get funded.
No, absolutely.
Okay. So like as I said, it was just like yesterday when these 3 young founders had come to us and, saying we want to empower Kirana Walas with a focus around tier 2 cities. They've done a pilot, I think, in say Bombay as well as in Indore, and they wanted to go heavy. They were toying with the idea which side to go heavy on. Did Lead Angels assist you in any way, or in say focusing on tier 2 or tier 1?
No, so I think by then we had already made up our mind from a focus standpoint. That we understood, and all our results said that tier 2 was a better way to start this. And from a footprint standpoint, since we wanted to reach more and more rising middle class of India through these Kirana stores, we felt like tier 2 would be a much better market for us, much better distributed across India, right? And so that was already done, I think. But what Lead Angels particularly, and what the angels play a part, and along with Sushant and team, is that they really back you up in terms of adding their wisdom and experience. They really back you up that, hey, yeah, this seems like if you are logical about it, I think they are able to back it up, and that says a lot, right? And that gives you a lot of confidence that, hey, these veterans of multiple industries, and a lot of these angels were actually technology and innovation background. And so when they come up to say that, hey, this strategy looks solid to us, and you'll be a clear differentiator and be able to add a lot of value, and I think that really boosts your confidence and gives you a headway to really move forward there.
Super. And as I mentioned earlier, at Lead Angels, we pride ourselves in sniffing the category creative. So here was a guy who was okay, you are trying to do something for B2B, but for tier two focus, wherein every startup typically runs to the metros. It is Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, Calcutta once in a while, but Hyderabad for sure. And like these are the areas where people typically focus around, and then they move around to nearby cities like say Chandigarh. It could be Meerut. It could be say things like that. But tier two cities in 2016 was quite unheard of. Okay, and I guess many of our investors uh, did feel that your such a punt would work. Sushant, what were your thoughts when he was actually presenting?
No, I think so. It was we had a little sort of bias towards IIT and IIM type of companies, founded companies, and that sort of bias still remains in the startup ecosystem. And the fact that they were not metro, and since we came from an IIT background, not from IIT, it was a little different. But I think the business model, the logic of the business model was, and what we all believe, that the Kirana stores are not going away anywhere. Modern retail may or may not, may succeed, may come, malls will come along, but the Kirana stores is here to stay. Of course, history has proven to be us to be right. But at that stage, it was like every day, these new e-commerce companies were coming up. Flipkart was doing well, everything was happening. So many new people were joining modern retail. So we still took the call that Kirana stores, especially in tier 2, tier 3 cities, will remain very strong. And of course, COVID has only strengthened them. But that was the belief at that point of time.
Sure. So Simon, as is everyone's guess, it is the vision of Sumit and founders like him, which are typically, punted on by investors who do a little bit of crystal gazing. Will this work? Will this not work? Is this market growing enough? And we'll come to some numbers going forward. But so Sumit, after this funding, how did you put that money to use, and where did it go exactly? What did you go around having picked that? Was it 3 crores? It was 3 crores with participation from lead angels also, right?
Correct. So this was like a $500,000 round, which is co-led by lead angels and incubate fund. Essentially, so this was a very interesting phase for Shopkirana, because back then we had seen a very interesting trend, right? Because back then everyone was still talking about B2C e-commerce. Everyone was still sort of focused on like you mentioned, tier 1 pretty much. And we saw actually a lot of times, even with seed capital, people were growing. They put seed capital behind growth. I particularly did not understand that. I think we went by the books in the sense that we did exactly what you're supposed to do with seed capital, which is experiment the hell out of the idea. तो हमने कुछ भी नहीं छोड़ा उसमें. तो जो भी बिजनेस मॉडल ट्राई करना था, जितना भी सप्लाई चेन मॉडल्स ट्राई करने थे, जो डिफरेंट रेवेन्यू मॉडल्स ट्राई करने थे, सब ट्राई किया हमने. And we really had very strong sort of proof of concepts in multiple directions. And I think basis that we made a decision that what is it going to be the right business model and right supply chain model for us. More importantly, we spent our energy and resources in getting a very strong product market fit and the right unit economics. तो मनीष, इसमें होता क्या है कि इंडस्ट्री के हिसाब से थोड़ा चेंज होता है. एंड वी रियलाइज कि हमारी इंडस्ट्री में B2B ग्रोसरी हम बात कर रहे हैं, वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट probably industries in the world. We are talking about a $550 billion yearly industry, which is growing at 10 to 15%. So this is massive. So we understood that top line का problem नहीं है इसमें. Problem है who gets it right. And so, we spent a lot of time in getting the right innovation and getting the right technology to get a very strong product market fit and the right unit economics. And that's the reason we stayed put in one city, and we made sure we perfected that combination, and only then we started scaling. So actually all the way to December of 2018, we just were focusing on this, and I believe that looking in hindsight, those were the golden days, which those were the seeds that we sowed, where we are reaping the benefit today.
Super. So but two years you've been running with that. I mean, the dry powder would have been drying up, right? Was it jittery? And when did you start your second round? I think that was a longish period.
No, yeah, for sure. And I think what happened also was that we ended up doing some tranche-based capital call as well with lead angels. So what happened was we made sure, and we were pragmatic from day one. So we made sure that we use we utilize the funds in the right way. So, but you're right in the sense that obviously it took time, and there were some tough times also. And this is where Shashantu and team, and also the angels itself, I think they really backed us. They say that, hey, as long as you're making a solid business and as long as you're in the right direction, don't worry about the timing of the next round. It'll happen. And that's what Shashantu also mentioned that to us, that hey, don't worry, there's ample amount of capital to be put behind good companies. Just focus on getting it right, and rest will follow. And that's exactly what happened, right? I mean, one of the things that happens in India is I believe that what you get at seed and what you're expected in Series A to raise Series A, there is a big gap there. So it becomes a lot of very difficult actually for a lot of companies then. But we were lucky that we had good backing in terms of conviction, saying that hey, don't worry, it'll come. And Sushant also played a big role there, because in our Series A as well, he was on, while we reached out to a lot of IBs or people, but lead advisory actually were the ones who actually introduced us to our current lead investor InfoEdge. So he introduced us to Sanjeev and his team, and so that really played a big role, because that really took us from our experimental getting the product to okay.
So I'm sorry. So there was some disturbance.
No, yeah, I was just saying that that conversation really changed or took us from the seed mode, getting the product right, to really a growth mode. So that was a turning point for us.
So in this case, Sushanto, investment is in 2016. I'm pretty sure. B2B wholesale trade, tier 2 cities. How many no's did you get? How many VCs told you no?
I'll just take it with you. So I think we at Lead Angels realized that a lot of our category creator companies and many of our portfolio companies are going to find it difficult to find their next round of funding. Of course, we'll never tell Sumit that, but But we knew that, and angels are not the best people to raise the next round. So you need a professional arm to do it. At the same time, a normal investment banker who is looking for fast closures will not find a fundraise which is going to take almost a year's time, right? So that's why we set up Lead Advisory, primarily to help our portfolio companies to raise the next round. And yes, our team went around lots and lots and lots of VCs. And that's when, sometimes even the entrepreneur gets a little disheartened that, they're meeting so many VCs, nothing is happening. And that's, failure is a part of the life of an entrepreneur, right? So, and yes, it can be demoralizing and demotivating at times. But yes, you have to, at least even if we knew that things were not going all that well, we wouldn't necessarily try to demotivate the Shopkirana team. But luckily for us, because if you meet enough VCs, you will probably find somebody. And I was very lucky that Sanjeev Vichagani was 1 year senior to me in school and college, and we were talking about some other company, and it just shared the fact that it happened by accident. Shared the fact that this is a portfolio company, because we didn't think that Naukri, which is primarily into listing services and HR and other stuff, would be interested in a B2B space. But yes, he said, yes. And I think thereafter it moved very, very quickly, Sumit, from the time that I had my first conversation in Delhi with the InfoEdge team, and till the time that they got their term sheet.
Super. And And Jan is when you announced it, right? Jan 2019.
Correct.
Okay. So a $2 million round finally, and you feel that, oh, okay, now we can focus on the experiments that have succeeded. Is that correct? So how did the growth fuel beyond that point? I'm like, what did you do with that first 2 million, and what were the targets? Because immediately in 9 months, and we were happy to know that there was a double down of $10 million, right? So
Correct.
what did you do right, and what exactly did you go about doing? And
No, so,
any help from some of the angel investors through this patch also, or not?
no, so actually what happened was, that, like I mentioned, we were ready. We were ready with the right model, and we were ready with a strong product market fit and the unit economics, right? And so we had a ready playbook, even though we did not have the funds to really scale, but we were ready with all the pre-work, and that's that was, we were pretty much waiting to press that growth button. And once we got that fuel, once we got our Series A, immediately within probably 15 days, we were able to launch this in Bhopal and Jaipur. So 2 more cities we were able to add instantly. What we yet had to prove was that fine, it worked in one city. Can it be scalable? How quickly can we scale? How quickly? What was more important for us is how quickly we can replicate. We wanted to make sure कि खाली वो scale बोलने के लिए scale नहीं करना कि oh we are in so many cities. The idea should be that can each of your new city can you replicate all of the KPIs or all of the target points that you have from your flagship city. And so we were able to do that very, very quickly. And the best testimony of that is how quickly we were able to do. In fact, so the final transaction might have taken longer, but like we, in a matter of 5 months, we were able to go back in the market and say that, hey, this is working. We need a further sort of growth capital. And so, you're absolutely right. Within 6 months, actually, we got our Series B of 10 million, and which further propelled us to add another 5 cities. Now, the interesting bit is that we always believe that let's be more efficient every day. Let's be quicker every day. And so this time around, we launched next 5 cities in a matter of 30 days.
Wow.
So, and that's the kind of homework that we had done. And we were able to grow faster than anyone else and more efficiently than anyone else. And so we went from, in the last 2 years, we went from 1 city operation to 8 city operation. We've gone from a team of 26 people to now a team of over 500 people. And then, of course, 2 funding rounds, and we've grown more than 20x in terms of how much sales we do.
Super. So
one of the other pieces that you had mentioned about the help from angels, so that has been consistent, right? And while institutional investors, we are we seek a lot of help and strategic directions, and we have a lot of these board meetings, but independent angels, I think we've always got great advice from them, and even from the pool of lead angels, not only from Sushanto and you guys and all the team members, but also the angels, right? I mean, I spoke about Pragnesh. There was Weber from media.net. He had the technology background, so he made sure we are answering the right question from a technology standpoint. There's Saman, there is Sunil, there is Piyush from a finance background, who made sure that, hey, whatever scale you are, whatever startup, you have to make sure that you have the right finance and accounts and right books and all right compliance. And so that really helped, right? And then within lead angels as a group also, I think there are multiple things that it offers, right? Not just the capital. So we were able to seek any help required from finance, legal, or compliance standpoint. We were able to get help from a hiring standpoint. So there were a lot of these tick marks that we were able to sort of seek help whenever it was required from this channel.
Super. So interestingly, we got Piyush also over here in the audience, and we got Sunil Veranda also. So one more key point is that typically Series A does not allow exits for most angel investors. In your case, it was allowed. There were some who took it, like Piyush.
Correct.
Okay, and there was some who did not. Sunil has just joined, I think. Sunil, if you could unmute yourself. So for others, he is himself an entrepreneur, ex-founder. So he's been an entrepreneur and a founder of Interactive Avenues and DGTL Media, which was basically Ad Magnet.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks so much, Manish. Hi, Sumit. Hi, Sushanto. Hi, everyone.
Yes, right.
Hi. Yeah, Manish.
Yes. So my question to you is, what made you invest in him in 2016, and what made you not exit in January
Okay.
2019,
So I'm in a
or
good
even in the
position.
Series B round for that matter?
Yeah. No, when things look good, you're in a nice position to give a nice answer. So that's nice. But yeah, so yeah, so 2016 was early days for me. In fact, it was the very first year that I was investing through Lead Angels. Actually, I just got in, and so as an investor, you look to check certain boxes, right? So you're saying idea, market, the co-founders, how invested they are, how committed they are, uh, you know, the market dynamics and scalability, and all those kind of checks are things that you're looking for. So, when Sumit and his team were around there and pitching, and it seemed like they, well, the idea seemed very simple, right? So there's no rocket science, there's no major creation of some heavy stuff happening. It was more about the technology and your supply chain innovation that they were doing uh, for the kiranas that which was an existential problem that you knew that that uh, inventory and how they get their stuff and all that kind of stuff was an ongoing problem over the years. So, and because they had the domain experience of having been at PNG, and there was proof of concept as well. So they were 1 year into the business. They had done a pilot in Mumbai. So all these things just added up, and it really looked good in terms of checking the boxes. And what really got me going with them was purely the team. So many a times you have the best ideas and the huge opportunity and all of that, but there were these three guys who understood, it happens through those various questions and answers and even the business reviews that you get a sense about how invested they are, or how confident they are, or how they know the domain that we're talking about. And all of this just checked right across all of them. So
Super,
so
super. So
and your second
when you
question.
were so in a situation when you put in X amount and you are getting, a multiplier by 3.5 times, 4 times,
Right.
and you choose not to exit. Now, tell me about that. More importantly, entry strategies are easy. Exit
Right.
strategies are the ones that help you make the money.
Okay, so I've fortunately for me, being an entrepreneur and have had a successful exit on one or more of our businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
Whilst yes, it looked very lucrative and looked exciting that over a period of 2 years or so, you're talking about a four x multiple and whatever. The idea clearly at that point in time that I think most of the lead angel investors exited at that round. I think barring a couple or more of us that stayed back, was purely because I thought the scope was more. And in a very short span of time, there was so much that was achieved. It was not like things were going to drastically change, and they were not going to. I mean, they in terms of scalability, the options were so much more, and they were doing a fabulous job. And I was actually in no hurry. When you see something good happening, you probably stay invested for a longer time when things are falling in place and looking better and all of that. And even um Sanjeev coming on board is a good sign, right? You're saying somebody who's been in the space, understands this entire investing business and all of that. He's getting committed into a business. It's a good sign at the end of the day. So there's no reason to probably exit at that time.
And I think it paid well because for others who may not be knowing about this, so the way the sales numbers stacked up were 4.7 crores was for 17, 8.4 crores it was in 2018, and 24 crores it was in FY19. That is exactly when they got that 2 million funding. And after that 24 crores, they straight away jumped to, what was the FY20? Sumit, why don't you speak about it? And then, so more importantly, before we begin, pandemic disrupting the traditional, so the pandemic has proved, I'm sorry, 2020 was the most tricky of the years, wherein across the board there was apprehension and that has again come back. But pandemic again was good for you. So can you just take us through the last 2 years numbers? Because that is what is the J curve that which all angel stroke investors are always waiting for. Please take us through that.
Right. No, so you're absolutely right, and that's where we were really able to showcase hockey stick growth, where we went from, like you mentioned, I think when lead angels invested, I think that year, and these are FY numbers, right? These are not run rate. These are actual FY listed numbers. So essentially, we went from when lead angels are invested, we filed a balance sheet of about 4 crores to, FY20 was 200 crores, and so.
Wow.
And this year, despite the pandemic, we've grown double already. So 400 crores, and so we've grown from that angle. We've grown 100x, since lead angel investment. And the good thing is that we've been very efficient as well in terms
Am
of.
Am I seeing a big smile on Sunil Miranda's face?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
From that angle, from that angle, it's been very interesting, right? I mean, we've been able to see very strong growth while making sense of the unit economics. And like everyone else who would have spent, the last 1 year of pandemic, everyone was not really focusing on growth. So even without focusing on growth, we were able to grow 2x. More importantly, like everyone else, we also try to optimize our business. So, the good thing is that, a good chunk of our business is today profitable now. We've been able to prove out, profitability in certain units already, and now are able to replicate that across. So, that is, during this last 1 year, that is how we utilize our time. And the good thing is that in the entire COVID duration, and even today, Shopkirana has had 0 days of business downtime, and that's how resilient this business or this business model or the retail industry is. And so that's been very interesting to us. And right now we're looking at very aggressively growing, starting this year. We are again going to, last 2 years, we've grown 20x. And the interesting bit is that in the next 2 years, we want to do another 20x. So that's the idea.
So you've talked a little bit about your growth plans. Could you elaborate a little more on them? You're already working with 50,000 Kirana shops, right?
Correct. So we're working with 50,000 Kirana stores. We're working with more than 250 brands today. We are present in 8 cities across 4 states. So MP, UP, Rajasthan, Gujarat. This central western belt is where we dominate.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the focus is tier 2 and progressive tier 2 cities, of the likes of Indore, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Lucknow, these kind of cities. And so, like I mentioned, the good part is that we are able to scale and replicate this model in all of these cities. So we are getting, similar kind of results in each of these cities, where we have good category market share of almost 8 to 9%, 8 to 10% category market share in all of these territories. So that makes us the clear number one player in FMCG in our territories.
Super. So one more thing I noticed, that wherever you go, every city, you stabilize that first, and you get that unit to be profitable.
Correct.
This was actually a model followed by Shoppers Stop also. Way back, I'm talking about this like early 90s.
DMart philosophy, pretty much. Yeah.
No, but it was equally say Shoppers Stop also.
Correct.
So the first unit turned profitable. Then they came out with 2 more. So Bangalore and 1 more city, those turned profitable, and then they came out with 2 more, which will be supported by each of these. That's how they did. You've done a very similar thing instead of spray and pray kind of a thing. So a little bit of insights into this growth strategy, and is this your own thinking, or are you going against the investors' wishes? I mean, how are you with the investors on this? Because everyone is looking for, once you grow 5 times, you grow 10 times. So while you have grown 2 times, some guys will say, boss, only 2 times.
No, sure. And this is the 2x happened while there was pandemic, right? While people were doing half the business that they were doing last year, growing. I think that was important. But you're right in the sense that, see, at this point in time, it's not as if you and the investors have different point of view. You're always in line. You can have some discussions initial on, but obviously you align on a certain game plan. And so we've been able to, we've been fortunate that, our investors are very, quite have a very similar kind of thought process that, hey, we want to make this a sizable, sustainable company, and a very quick one as well. And so, so essentially, from that philosophy, I would say the difference being of a DMart or a Shopper Stop, while they do it in series, I think we are doing this in parallel, right? And what venture capital enables you to do is that you can do it in parallel, right? I mean, while we continue our accelerated growth, but our initial cities, they keep following their game plan, right? It's not as if they get distracted. So, from launch to, 18 months or whatever, they have a clear path to break even and then profitability. And so we don't meddle with that. We want to make sure that we are making a massive sizable company, but making sure that we are making sense out of the business as well. And so, that definition does not get lost. We try to do this both in parallel, where we are growing very, very aggressively, but at the same time, making sense out of the entire business.
Got it. So, I'm like the words that you used, in fact, I take some, say, lectures on entrepreneurship and all, and on startups. So my definition of a startup, so I've got two definitions. Number one is, a startup is a temporary organization in search of a repeatable, scalable, and sustainable business model. So what you did was, you made Indore sustainable. You knew you could replicate it, you tried the replicability, and it became repeatable. And the market is huge. India has a huge population with millions of kirana walas. How many million, by the way?
So 9 million kirana stores.
Super. So that's the market that you have. So obviously there's a scalability there. So and the other definition is, a successful startup is one that moves from plan A to a plan that works.
Sure.
Before your resources run out.
Right.
I think you've been bang on onto that. You've got the Bombay versus Indore thing. You've got the take each city at a time, and you have been strong on building processes and other things.
So it's a very interesting thing that you mentioned about, and especially I like your first definition, because that's exactly where we are. That's the sweet spot that we are in today, where we have a repeatable, profitable unit today.
And that's what Sanjeev also loves. Sanjeev Bichchandani कहता है, boss, एक sales metric पकड़ लो, can you replicate it? That's what.
Exactly. That's the juncture that we are at today. And that's why we feel, not just me, like the entire team feels very comfortable and confident in really scaling this up now. Because, once you have this, you are able to grow very, very quickly.
Great. Do we have some questions? I think we are more or less through with our thing. We have a question from Divyanshu Tambe. He says, his question is to you, Sumit. Were there difficult periods in terms of differences in approach, commitment from other co-founders, or differences with investors, others? I'm sure it has not been a rosy picture. Being an entrepreneur is never rosy. It is more downs than ups.
No, absolutely. With investors, not so much, I would say. I think, but between founders, all of us are 100% or more than 100% committed here, right? I mean, the most important thing I always say, the most important thing that we are putting behind this is our youth. We are, all of us in the entire team, 500 people, we are all spending our youth towards this dream of empowering retailers. So from a commitment standpoint, there is no difference, right? Everyone is massively committed towards this, we make sure that most important thing about our team is that everyone has internalized this vision, and everyone, almost like a war cry, chants this every morning, where we will empower these kirana stores of India, right, in every possible way that is possible. And so, but in terms of differences, that I would say there should be differences, right? I mean, the part of role play that founders need to play is push each other for greatness, and ask each other tough questions, right? And we continue doing that. तो हम लोग जब एक रूम में बैठते हैं तीनों तो हाँ खूब लड़ते हैं हम, we make sure that we are asking the right questions and the tough questions, what is right for the company, and so we make sure we push each other quite a lot, and that is a healthy discussion. And I believe that वो हाँ में हाँ बढ़ने वाले founders ज़्यादा that is not lasting, and that is not sustainable. And that is not the best way forward for a company. The best way forward is to make sure that, because each of us come from different backgrounds, so we want to make sure that we leverage our thought process, experience, and wisdom in making sure we are taking the right call for the company. And so that is a healthy process, I feel, and should happen, where all of us come together in healthy discussions to make sure we are taking the right call. But overall, if you say, we've had the best relationship, and I couldn't have asked for a better team.
Super. And as you said, investors have largely been supportive to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, when you see those growth numbers, when you're not exactly seeing that hockey stick curve, तब क्या किया आपने? भाई 4 के 8 हुए, 8 के 24 हुए.
Correct. No, so this is something that I learned when I was in PNG, right? And what happened with PNG was in my first assignment, somehow within 6 months into the company, I was given a big project management role of a project which was really in a bad shape.
Okay.
And it was actually a project that was led by 2 levels senior than my sort of position. And so it was a big responsibility where I was handling a team of, say, 150 people, big initiative projects. And the way I understood was that, I was already in a difficult position to get into. One big thing I learned was, whenever you are in a tough spot, you make sure that you over communicate with all your stakeholders with the best transparency possible, the most transparency possible. And so,
very true.
And once you do that, I think people also understand what the situation you are in, and you are able to sort of come through together. Because I never say I'm doing this alone, right? All of the team members, all the investors are in this with me. So I make sure that I over communicate this in a transparent way, so that everyone's on the same page, and it is what it is, and you have to fight it out, right? At the end of the day, obviously we are here to make sure that we have that grit to, and that never give up attitude. But at the same time, once you do that, I think investors are also happy to back you up.
Okay, so I think more or less we are covered. Just last question for you is any plans of becoming an angel, and when are you becoming a lead angel member?
No, I think the moment that happens, I'll Manish, you and Shashank are the first person I'll contact with, for sure.
Okay. So, Saurabh, are they going to be checking the hotel sector to add to the top line? I doubt it. They would rather go they are going towards the Kisan side and supplying to the farmers, right? You've started one line for the farmer side and the rural side for supply chain. Is that correct?
Correct. And the thought process, very quickly, the thought process behind it is that, Horeca, we are not focused on, because, while we'll get some kind of top line through that, some sales through that, but our long-term goal is that, ये kirana store को जब देखते हो, तो you want to empower them in all the forms that you can, right? And there are a lot of opportunities, not just providing them with goods, but, a lot of different things that you can do. And, there's a huge network effect that can happen, right? There is in-store branding, on-store branding, there are a lot of cross-sell, upsell activities. उसको kiosk बना सकते हो. बहुत ज़्यादा क्षमता है एक kirana store में to really leverage them and monetize and have more revenue streams. It's not the same case with Horeca. So we want to make sure that, we are not doing this in any kind of a short-term mentality or thought process. From mid to long term, working more closely with kirana store makes more sense for us.
Okay. And there was another question. I'm sorry, I missed out on. This is, so Vishal is asking what kind of valuation of your business you are expecting in the next 2 years. So my take on this is, the topic of the topic today is finding and funding unicorns. So let's not put anything more around that.
Yeah, but just to very quickly add, I feel like the whole unicorn idea and the unicorn definition, all that. So basically, that is more to do with valuation, right? And that's an external validation. That is what your group of people or some investors or market really decides for you. I think what we have as a company, what we have under control is sales. And from that standpoint, unicorn or like a 7,000 crore sale is, to be honest, for our industry is nothing, because even if we do 7,000 crore, 8,000 crore sale, we are
just peanuts.
We are less than 1% of the business. So I think our aim is to capture 10% of this demand. So we are talking more in the lines of $8 to $10 billion sale is what what we look at. So that's where we will go towards. And I think unicorn, that valuation status is more of an external.
And beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. Oh, someone may view you at that, and the very next day, the other guy may say that, I mean, if you see Byju's, वो एक महीने पहले he's picked up at $8 billion, 2 महीने बाद में he picks up at $14 billion. So beauty lies in the eye of the beholder. Let's just say that.
No, absolutely. And one thing that I see is that a lot of times we've seen that पता नहीं कैसे जब एक बार unicorn status के बाद में I've seen Indian startups थोड़ा सा slow it down. I don't understand that. I feel like, and especially for our kind of vertical, our kind of industry, there's a huge potential and upside. So we actually don't want to have a ceiling in mind or anything that sort of makes us more comfortable. We want to make sure that we push hard continuously.
True. Great. Super. Thanks so much, Sumit, for all the thing. And just I think one more question is there. What is your definition of sales, GMV, or your commissions from the Kirana stores? He is a trader, so GMV would be a sales figure.
Correct.
Okay. And what is the end game for a founder? He wants to see his vision should be flourishing, whether in the current state or through acquisitions. Because I've seen founders who are very happy when they've been acquired. Like one person, he got acquired by Haptake, and his vision was that you should have hundreds of millions of people using his product. Now, Jio के सारे customer उसका जो AI conversational AI piece use कर रहे हैं, his vision has been put into place.
Right.
Anything you would say on that?
No, so I mean, the idea is to make a sizable, sustainable company, right? And so our idea is, when we got into this, Deepak, Tanu, Tejas, and I think all three of us were very clear that we wanted. It is not as if we just wanted to work on some idea. We wanted to work on an idea which has a massive scale and which has a massive impact angle, right? And it is something that we thought that, more importantly, it should be an idea which really consumes us from an intellectual standpoint, right? It really, every day is a new challenge, and you are able to apply yourself intellectually every day for a really long period of time. And so I see this as a long-term game. Of course, as you rightly mentioned, at the end of the day, you want to envision that, this vision of yours finally goes through. And at some time, you yourself can do it, or you can be part of something who's able to see this through. So, I think we'd be open to either of those directions, as long as we are able to empower the Indian retailers.
Super.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Sumit. Now, I'll just take the audience through a few slides, which like what we discussed. I mean, we already have it in our presentation. Just if you can go through that. And for the audience, if you could also fill out, there's a form that has been put in the chat. If you could fill out that form for your feedback, I'll just take you through slightly about, one sec, let me do my share screen. Okay, yes, so, so we have Lead Angels Network. It is, I mean, this presentation is about startup investing, but we go far beyond angel investing, as Sumit had mentioned in a number of ways, the way we work together. So engaging with startups, when Sumit came to us, he was like a little sapling of a redwood tree. Okay, redwood giants, if you know, and as I mentioned earlier, startup is a temporary organization in search of a repeatable, scalable, sustainable business model. Okay, it may sound very simple, but it's a very tough nut to crack. Each of these elements. If you may be repeatable, you may be sustainable, but are you scalable? Most investors take a punt on, are you scalable enough? So that's exactly what Sumit was saying, that we are looking at a massive scale operation, which we could find in this and could find those huge inefficiencies. So what is the global logic of startup investing? Now that is a redwood giant. You can just see the size of the thing. That is a fence, the white fence, which you see at the bottom. That is nearly 4.5 feet high. Okay, and yes, so those fledglings, those foals turned into unicorns like Amazon, Google, Uber, Facebook, Twitter, Airbnb. Okay, and what is the India story? One second. India is a huge opportunity. I'm like, startups, founders need a problem to solve. If you have a problem, a founder can solve it and create value. And India is filled with problems. So that's what we have, traffic, and the amount of crowd that we have, lack of infrastructure, cash economy. I mean, so many of the things still work in progress. And the social and cultural changes in India itself are so strong that opportunities are there. Just imagine 2016, not even 4 crores. When we were talking to him, he was not even sure he'd close 4 crores. And he closed last March at 400 crores. Okay, so these are the kind of things that happen, and demand constraints do not exist at all. You got the right product at the right price, there are people to buy it. Education, transportation, housing, financial services, F&B, across India, each have white spaces with the possibility of 3 to 4 winners. So while we have Shopkirana, there is a Max Wholesale and there is a Jumbo Tail. Okay, and so you won't have some monopolies. Indians are very scared of monopolies. The moment they'll feel that Jio, Ambani ji हमारे को अपने को मुट्ठी में कर लेंगे, हम किसी और को ऊंचा कर देंगे. I'm pretty sure Indians are very capable of that. India is not key. There's only one Amazon or there's only one Toys R Us. Okay, and the Indian logic of investing, as I mentioned earlier, 11 startups were there in 2020. In April 2021 alone, there were 6 unicorns in 4 days. 10 new unicorns. I'm like, yes, this number is, some people may feel, there's not a validation, but in many ways, that gives you capital to, to put across your dream, provided you have done your product market fit well. And this, you use it as a growth money. The moment you're doing that, you will grow, which is what is happening with many companies. In some cases, wherein you are trying product market fit with loads of, or say, treasure chests of money, then it may not work. What are the benefits of angel investing? Well, potential for hyper returns, estimated IRRs around 20 to 30%. Each investor learns new business models, new technologies while not being into it. So I'm sure Sunil and say Piyush and others, they would have equally learned from Sumit as much as he learned from them. And you're providing guidance to startups not only for improving financial but also social returns. Okay, and you're supporting entrepreneurs who are making a difference. What are the challenges? Where do you find quality startups pan-India? How do you evaluate them? Who does the due diligence, documentation, like Sumit was mentioning, that Piyush was there to help him with compliance and other things. Compliance वगैरह ठीक थी, तो उसका second round फट से हो गया. Compliance नहीं होती है तो आपका CPs take 3 months. And of course, post-investment monitoring and support. Last is the most important part, ensuring timely fundraise and M&A for exits. This is very important. And that's exactly where Lead Angels comes in. As an angel network, what all we do, we have a full-time team to curate startups and assist in business review. Okay, we use collective wisdom and leverage the network effect for evaluation. Professional due diligence and documentation support to ensure compliance. and post-investment support and monitoring of the portfolio. We also have lead advisory arm. And of course, it's a community that evaluates while the individual decides. Lead Angels provides a full stack advantage. You got labs, which helps in compliance and documentation. Lead Angels Network, which helps in funding up to 500K. Lead advisory services, which helps you raise from $1 million round to anywhere up to say $10-20 million round, which most investment bankers are not ready to take up such assignments between the sub $1 million to $5 million bracket. Very rare to find them. Am I right, Sumit, on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even if they are, I think, at the end of the day, it really boils down to who's willing to work very closely with you and has the right network. Right?
Without retainers too.
Correct. And where can you establish that trust? I think once, trust is most important here.
True, trust is the most important thing. Exactly. Okay. And our investment process, we take 3 opportunities every month, shortlisted from 150 plus, based on investor interest. We do a deep dive, a business review. And if it is found positive, we negotiate with the entrepreneurs on the valuation. Investor commitments are aggregated across our global network. And then we perform the legal and financial due diligence, which is carried by an agency appointed by the deal lead. Once that is cleared, then the investment documentation and finally the money in the bank happens. We continue to do the post-investment monitoring and support. And yes, so that is essentially what. So decisions are solely individual from the investor point, while the LA team handles not only the portfolio company, the investors also. Okay, and that's what has been our thing. Over the past 6 years, 15,000 plus startup applications screened, 2,000 plus startups reviewed by the investment committee, 950 plus deals showcased, 45 plus startups invested in, and 15 plus have raised follow-on funds or there has been an M&A transaction around that. That's our portfolio. Shopkirana, of course, continues to be one of us because our members abhi bhi bakaida aapke shareholders hai.
Absolutely.
Okay, and yes, that's the team. Sushant Mitra, we met. Venkat, he is a partner with Avishkar Frontier Fund, handling investments across Southeast Asia. You got Dhruv Nath, who's a prof at MDI. He and Sushant co-authored the book, Funding Your Startup. Our learnings hai startup investment ki, we have actually put them together into this book. And we got Suman, who's handling labs. Manish Johari, that is myself. I'm handling the network sentiment or the happiness factor at the network. We got Kruti, who is bringing us great deals for the investors to invest in. Kunal is doing the same. Fennel is with lead advisory. And Tanmay is handling research along and helping Fennel on the deals. Thank you so much. That's what we are about. I'll stop the screen share. Any last questions anyone has? How do lead angels curate business founders while investing? Saran, you'll have to connect with me separately on that. You can reach out to, you can put it on the form that we have to reach out to you, or you can note down my number. So that's for everyone in the meeting. These are my numbers, and you could also find us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, and others. And Sumit, thank you so much for taking our time on this Saturday. I'm sure you might be getting something from the home ministries. Or are you still happy?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, we're not in a best situation from a COVID standpoint, so we should take all the measures. But business point of view is good, so no worries there.
Super. Good to have you. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. And for anyone who wants to know more about angel investing, please feel free to reach out to us at Twitter at Lead Angels, LinkedIn at Lead Angels Network, Facebook. Our phone numbers are right there. Our website is leadangels.in. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you, Shanto. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much, Sumit.